advantage of us anymore. You know, if you looked at European Union, they're all my friends. I don't blame them. I blame our presidents. I blame our past presidents and, you know, business leaders. But we are the king of countries that have been taken advantage of for many, many years. We've been paying trillions and trillions of dollars and receiving nothing at all. As an example, prior to the deal with Europe, where they pay a lot of money, but they're happy and I'm happy. The deal was good. It's a fair deal, but it wasn't fair. You couldn't put a car into Europe. You couldn't sell your agriculture into Europe. You couldn't do anything. And now we have it so that it's open. We charge them tariffs. We didn't charge them tariffs a car. They charge us tremendous. I said to Angela Merkel once, I said, how many cars have gone to Germany from the United States? And she said, well, I don't believe any. And I said, you're right. You're right. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. And they're paying a fair amount. It's just a fair amount. It's not, I could ask for much more. It's a fair amount. But the United States now is using the same thing that they've used on us. And I just can't believe it's taken presidents so long to do this. And again, we're going to treat people fairly. We're going to especially treat Canada fairly. But I can't believe it's taken so long where we get charged and don't charge them. Japan was a good example. We made a deal with Japan. You saw that, Mark. A deal with Japan. It's a much different deal than we've had in the past. But they would send us millions of cars, no charge. We weren't allowed to send them cars. We sent them no cars. I doubt you had one car go into Japan because we were restricted. They didn't want our cars. Same thing with Europe. Same thing with other places. So now all we do now is fairness. But fairness leads us to the most successful country there's ever been. You know, we have some advantages over other countries, and we do have a great market. We have an amazing market. But you know what? If I let this go, if we didn't win this election, if we had these people that were running, that were ruining our country, destroying our country with their open borders and men playing in women's sports and transgender from everybody and windmills all over the place, if we allowed that to go on for another couple of years, we would be, I'm not sure that we'd even have a country. Yeah, Brian. And by the way, I'm not sure we would have even had a country. And now we have the most successful country in the world. Brian?
Yes, sir. What is your message to Democrats ahead of a next vote to open up the government? The American people are saying, open the damn government. What's your message to them right now?
Well, they're the ones that started it. They're the ones that have it. And it's almost like a kamikaze attack by them. You want to know the truth? This is like a kamikaze attack. They almost, you know, they have nothing to lose. They've lost the elections. They've lost the presidential election in a landslide. I saw the other day where Kamala said, this was a very close election. This was one of the biggest sweeps that anybody's ever had. Won the popular vote by millions, won the Electoral College by a massive amount. They said, if I got 270, that would be great. But I got, I think, 312 or 315, and they got 220. So, you know, we won that. But we won counties. The big thing is counties. So out of all of the counties, thousands and thousands, we got 2,500. They got 525. It was a landslide. And we listened, oh, yes, it was close. It was one of the greatest victories ever. And it was a mandate to do what we're doing. And I hope, and Mark wants this as much as I do, we are very close to making a deal on the Middle East that will bring peace to the Middle East. After all of these years of millions and millions, tens of millions of people being killed, there's a chance to bring peace to the Middle East. In addition to that, I made 7 other deals, and they're, you know, great. And we're, you know, things are happening with respect to Russia, Ukraine. That's one that last week, Mark, 7,812 people were killed. Soldiers, mostly soldiers. Yep. But 7,000, more than 7,000, almost 8,000 soldiers were killed. It's a crazy thing. I thought that would have been one of the easy ones. I get along very well with Putin, and I thought that would have been, I'm very disappointed in him because I thought this would have been an easy one to settle, but it's turned out to be maybe tougher than the Middle East. We'll see what happens with the Middle East. The Middle East. I think. Go ahead. Behind, yes.
Is the fentanyl crisis over with Canada, with the Canadian border?
Is what?
The fentanyl crisis.
No, it's not over. It's never. I think it's never going to be over, frankly. But they've done. Canada's worked hard, and they've done a much better job than in the past. We have very few people coming in through our southern border too. We've worked with Canada and we've worked with Mexico, so we've made it a lot better.
Look,
And Canada is very competitive. I can tell you that. Canada is a very competitive country. And I think Canada's done very well over the years with China.
Yeah, we have, but we'll do better together on that.
Mr. President, on Golden Dome, Middle East, what guarantees are you giving your Arab partners that Israel will not resume its offensive after the hostages are released?
Well, the primary guarantee is once this deal happens, if it does happen, look, they're in negotiations right now, we are going to do everything possible. We have a lot of power, and we're going to do everything possible to make sure everybody adheres to the deal. Okay?
Are you concerned about the delays at airports, and how do you see the shutdown lately?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's they're all Democrat delays. There are delays at the airport. That's standard. And again, this is something that every day we put forth a bill. It's just a continuation. It's a very simple thing to sign and very simple to do. And I really think that these are people that I think they have nothing to lose. They have a party that's out of control. They have no leader. Nobody knows who the leader is. I look at people with very low IQs like Crockett, this woman Crockett. I never met her, but she's a low IQ individual. I look at AOC talking about how if they want to negotiate, they can come to my office. She's not in that position to do that. And who the hell is she to say that? And then I watch Nancy Pelosi not knowing what to do. I watch their leadership. Look, Schumer is petrified of primary because he's not going to win probably against anybody in a primary. You know, Schumer did the right thing, but he handled it badly originally a year ago. He did probably the right thing, but he handled it badly. I think Schumer is incapable of making a deal. They are a mess. They're a party that has no leadership. They have, and they have no policy. You know, I think we have great leadership, but we also have great policy. We have strong borders. We have no men and women's sports. I mean, basic things. We're not going to take your child away and change the sex of your child. We're not going to do things like that. What they're doing to the country is so incredible. And they got away with it with all their woke crap, and now it's stopped. And we have a country that's based on common sense and strength and intelligence. I mean, we have the United States of America, and I say it all the time. Other leaders have told me this. Mark hasn't yet, but I think he would. A year ago, we were a dead country, and now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world. Maybe Canada. I'll give Canada, but because I do like Canada. But you know, we're the hottest country in the world right now. There's never been a country that has the kind of money coming into it. There's never been anything like this. There has never been a country that if you take $1 trillion, that would be unbelievable. We're going to have over $20 trillion invested in this country. There's never been anything like what you're seeing, and it's based on good policy and common sense and leadership. Yeah.
Mr. President, what is Canada giving you in return? If you say Mr. Carney's going to be leaving Washington happy, what's Canada giving you in
Well,
return?
you'll find out, but I think the people of Canada, they will love us again. Most of them still do. If you say only 25%, I assume a lot of them, I think they love us. And you know what? I'm not the biggest hockey fan, but I like it a lot. And I watched some of the greatest hockey games I've ever. How good were those games, right?
Yeah, very good. We're coming down for the World Series, Mr. President.
Oh, good.
In Asia.
By the way, your team is. You're looking pretty good. Yeah, go.
Mr. President, will you sign a trade deal with Canada that doesn't include supply managed goods like dairy, for example? If the federal government.
Well, a deal would include dairy. I mean, it's going to include everything. We'll do a comprehensive.
Mr. President, have you identified programs to eliminate under this shutdown?
Oh, sure.
Which ones?
We have a lot. I'm not going to tell you, but we'll be announcing it pretty soon. But we have a lot of things that we're going to eliminate and permanently eliminate. You know, one of the things that we have is some advantage, you could say, but because of the shutdown, which I think they made a big mistake, we're able to take out billions and billions of dollars of waste, fraud, and abuse, and they've handed it, on a silver platter. And Russell Vogt, he's a serious person, very serious person, and he's sitting there and he's getting ready to cut things. And this is something that was handed to us by, I assume, Schumer. I just don't know if Schumer has any power anymore. I look at your leadership. I don't know who to speak to. I'll tell you what. I'm getting calls from Democrats wanting to meet. I never even heard their names before, and they're claiming to be leaders. The Democrats have no leader. They remind me of Somalia, okay? And I met the president of Somalia. I told him about the problem he's got. I said, you have somebody from Somalia who's telling us how to run our country. She's from Somalia. He said, would you like to take her back? He said, no, I don't want her. Okay, you know who I'm talking about? Say it again, please.
How many permanent jobs are you talking about to be eliminated?
Well, I can tell you, I'll be able to tell you that in 4 or 5 days if this keeps going on. If this keeps going on, it'll be substantial. And a lot of those jobs will never come back. But you're going to have a lot closer to a balanced budget, actually.
Is there anything the Prime Minister has done that's making it more difficult to reach a deal?
Say it?
Is there anything the Prime Minister has done that's making it more difficult or easier to reach a deal?
No, I think he's a great prime minister. I mean, he could represent me anytime. I will tell you, I'm not saying that because he's here. No, he is a very strong, very good leader. He's a nice man, but he can be nasty. He can be very nasty. Maybe as nasty as anybody.
How?
I think Canada. Let me put it this way. I can tell you this because I deal with lots of leaders all over the world. He is a world-class leader. He's a man that knows what he wants, and I'm not surprised to see that he won the election and won it substantially. And I would think he's more popular now. He's a good man. He does a great job, and he's a tough negotiator.
So then what's holding things up? If he's a great man and you want to do a deal with Canada, why aren't you?
Because I want to be a great man, too. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. That could have been.
I think you got that one.
That could have been. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hard to finish on a better note. much, everybody. It's an honor to have the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, who I have made very popular. He's an extremely popular Prime Minister, and I'm very honored to do it because I liked him. Right from the beginning, I've liked him, and we've had a good relationship. We have some natural conflict, but we will probably work that out. But we've had a very strong relationship, and your hosting of the various countries that showed up, that was a beautiful job you did, and I appreciate it very much. We're going to be talking about trade. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things. We'll certainly be talking about Gaza. We're in very serious negotiations to, I guess you could say, depending on the way you count, 3,000 years. You could say 500 years. You could say, but that it's been raging for a long time. And I think there's a possibility that we could have peace in the Middle East. It's something even beyond the Gaza situation. We want a release of the hostages immediately, et cetera. And so our team is over there now. Another team just left, and other countries, literally every country in the world has supported the plan.
Yep.
I don't think there's anybody that hasn't, actually, not that I've seen. But there's a real chance that we could do something, so you may have some questions on that later. But in the meantime, we'll spend some time and we'll make some deals and we'll do some things that are good for both of our countries. And Mark, it's an honor to have you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. If I may, you kindly hosted me and some of my colleagues a few months ago, and I said at the time, you are a transformative president. And since then, the transformation in the economy, unprecedented commitments of NATO partners to defense spending, peace from India, Pakistan through to Azerbaijan, Armenia, disabling Iran as a force of terror, and now, and I'm running out of time, but this is in many respects the most important.
The
what
merger
you created
of Canada
no,
and the
what
United
you
States.
have created.
I'm only kidding.
That wasn't where I was going. On this solemn day of commemoration of the October horrific attacks of October 7th, for the first time in decades, hundreds of years, thousands of years, this prospect of peace that you've made possible. Canada stands foursquare behind those efforts, and we'll do whatever we can to support
Very
them.
nice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark, very much. Any questions?
Is there any, what would it take for you to drop or lower your tariffs on Canadian sectors, including aluminum and steel?
Well, we're going to be talking about that with the Prime Minister. We'll be talking about tariffs. We'll be talking about a lot of that, but that's for a little bit later on. I want to just acknowledge our great ambassador. Is he doing a good job?
He's doing a good job.
Otherwise, I'll get him out of there so fast. No, you have a good
Is it the White House's position that furloughed workers should be paid for their back pay?
I would say it depends on who we're talking about. I can tell you this, the Democrats have put a lot of people in great risk and jeopardy, but it really depends on who you're talking about. But for the most part, we're going to take care of our people. There are some people that really don't deserve to be taken care of, and we'll take care of them in a different way. Okay? Thank you.
Mr. President, in your opinion, why has Canada and the United States failed to reach an agreement up until now?
Well, it's a complicated agreement, more complicated maybe than any other agreement we have on trade, because, we have natural conflict. We also have mutual love. We have great love for each other. I love this. I love Canada and the people of Canada, and Mark feels the same way about here. The problem we have is that they want a car company and I want a car company, meaning the U.S. wants a car company, and they want steel and we want steel. So in other countries, they're very far away, and there's no problem. You can compete and you can do. We don't like to compete because we sort of hurt each other when we compete. And so we have a natural conflict. It's a natural business conflict. Nothing wrong with it. And I think we've come a long way over the last few months, actually, in terms of that relationship. So when it comes to trade, the United States was always giving everything. They gave everything to Canada. They would let car companies leave here and go to Canada. But that hurts the United States. And, other presidents didn't see that. They weren't business-oriented. They might have been good politicians in some cases, not in all cases. They were bad at both. But it's a very natural conflict. and it's something that we're working on.
Canada has
Yes.
offered a lot of compromise this summer. Are you willing today to offer some compromise to Canada, maybe on steel, on aluminum?
Well, we've made compromise, and we've made some compromise even on steel. But, you know, we have the same basic authority and the same basic, this could be also a little bit of a conflict with other countries all over the world on steel, because we want to make our own steel. We don't want to bring steel in for the most part, but we will bring it in, and we do bring it in. We continue to bring it in from Canada, but there is a tariff to pay. And I think that would be a normal thing to say, but we've come a long way. I think, Howard, we can truly say, do you want to make a comment on that?
Well, I think the opportunity to work together, but as you've said, there's conflict. You know, why do we make cars in Canada? You've called that out, and you've addressed that. So there are places we should work together, and there are places that we have natural conflict.
It's a tough situation because we want to make our cars here. At the same time, we want Canada to do well making cars. So we're working on formulas, and I think we'll get there.
Canadians are refusing to go to the U.S. The numbers are down like 23% in the first 7 months of the year. What do you say to Canadians that don't want to go to the U.S. now because of your 51st state talk, because of the trade war, the tariffs?
Yeah.
And
Well,
the fear
I
of
understand
also
it. Look, I
being
understand
exported?
that, and Americans don't want to buy cars that are made in Canada, you know? I mean, we have the same conflict. So there isn't, it's something that will get worked out. There's still great love between the two countries, but, you know, American people want product here. They want to make it here. Detroit was emptied out and moved to Canada, moved to Mexico, moved to other places, not just Canada. And now they're all moving back, you know, they're moving back. We have, right now, I was just telling Mark, we have 17 trillion, but it's really much higher. That was as of a couple of months ago. We have over $17 trillion being invested now in the United States. As an example, Biden, he was the worst president we've ever had, but they had less than $1 trillion in 4 years. We have more than 17 trillion in 8 months. 8 months. And I think that number is going to be $21, $22 trillion. There's never been anything like that in the history of the world for any country, not even close. You know, if you did 1 trillion in a year, that's pretty good. We're going to do over 20. And it's coming in with AI. It's coming in with auto plants. You know, we're building auto plants, a lot of auto plants in the U.S. It's coming in for a lot of reasons. It's coming in because of the fact, I think the November 5th election was a big factor, and I think the tariffs are a big factor. And again, we want Canada to do great, but you know, there's a point at which we also want the same business. We're competing for the same business. That's the problem. That's why I keep mentioning one way to solve that problem is a very easy way. But we're competing for the same business. He wants to make cars, we want to make cars, and we're in competition. And the advantage we have is we have this massive market. So it's a, you know, it's quite an advantage.
Mr. President, can we talk about Portland for a second? Are you planning to invoke the Insurrection Act? And that would be, you know, a very long-standing law that's been on the books.
Yeah, well, it's been invoked before, as you know. If you look at Chicago, Chicago's a great city where there's a lot of crime. And if the governor can't do the job, we'll do the job. It's all very simple. They probably had 50 murders in Chicago over the last 5, 6, 7 months. Many people were shot. And then the governor gets up and he says, well, we can handle it. They can't handle it. They don't know what they're doing. The mayor is grossly incompetent. He's at a 4% approval rating in Chicago. He's at a 4%, lowest approval rating, lower than even de Blasio had, which is hard to believe in New York. I thought de Blasio would always maintain that record, but the Chicago guy is even lower. So I think that we want safe cities. If you look at D.C., you would right now, Mark, you could go out, take your family out to dinner, you could walk right down the middle of the street. There is no crime in D.C. When I got here, this place was a raging hellhole where people would come from Canada, people would come from other places and end up getting shot. Nobody's being shot. The National Guard's been unbelievable. I mean, they are strong, tough guys. You know, we won something at the Supreme Court, which is a big deal, merit. Everything now in this country is merit-based. I didn't think I'd ever see it again. And we have our soldiers are merit-based too, and they're central casting. And they walk through that town, and I'll tell you what, this place is safe. It's beautiful. Now we're in Memphis, and the same thing's happening. You're getting the reports. The bad guys are saying, we don't want anything to do with this. And we're removing many people. In D.C., we took out 1,700 career criminals and sent them back to the countries from which they came, mostly led out by Biden and his people that had an open border policy. And, you know, Canada, you suffered because of that, too, because they'd come here and they'd go into Canada also. So we're like a buffer for that in terms of Canada suffered greatly by Biden and the open border, the policy of open border, totally unchecked, totally unvetted. And these people were, you know, if you got 5%, 2%, now you were getting a lot of bad people. And we now have a closed border. You've done well. Yep. We have a closed border, and it's a really closed border. In fact, for 4 months, I don't even know if this is possible, but the figures were released. 0 people were able to come into the United States from the southern border. 0. And as you know, we've taken a very hard stand on drugs. This is also benefiting you. A lot of we call them the water drugs, the drugs that come in through water. They're not coming. There are no boats anymore. Frankly, there are no fishing boats. There's no boats out there, period. If you want to know the truth, we're saying, does anybody go fishing anymore? The fact is we knocked out, probably saved at least 100,000 lives, American lives, Canadian lives, by taking out all those boats coming in. So it's, and now they don't come in that way anymore. Now they'll come in other ways, and we're not going to allow that either. So we've done a great job on that. But on crime, Chicago's a great city, but you can't be a great city if you have murders and if you have a lot of problems, and they do. And they have an incompetent policy, just like they had open border policy, anybody could come in. They came in from prisons, they came in from mental institutions, drug dealers, they came in from all over the place, and we don't have that anymore. This country is becoming we're a very strong country. Look, financially speaking, I would say that because of the tariffs, because of the election, because of the policy, because of the great big beautiful deal, it's what I added the word great because it really is. It's the biggest bill ever passed in the history of our country. We don't need another bill. It's the biggest tax cuts, I mean, when you think no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime for the people. But far beyond that, what it does is incentivizes auto plants and AI and all of the things that nobody's ever passed a bill like it. We don't need another bill. We don't need any more bills. I said, let's get it all at once. I was greatly helped by our Speaker, Mike Johnson, and by the Senate. I'll tell you what, John Thune's both of those guys have been incredible. And we got a bill passed that I said, let's see if we can get it all done. Because these Democrats are like insurrectionists, okay? They're so bad for our country. Their policy is so bad for our country. I said, let's see if we can get it all done and everybody said it's not doable. Because it's the biggest bill ever passed in the history of our country. And we got it all done. We don't need anything else. We got everything we want. And now, because of that, that's a big reason why the companies are coming in. You know, 1 year depreciation, 1 year write-off, 1 year expensing. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. So they're coming in from all over the world. But to have a great country, you can't have crime. And we don't have crime, but we have cities where there's tremendous crime. And Chicago's one of them. And if the governor can't straighten it out, we'll straighten it out. Thank you. A question for the president.
Mr. Prime Minister, I'd like to know how come the UK and the European Union have succeeded to sign deals and bring the tariffs down, and Canada still hasn't been able to do the same?
Yeah, because they're not located right next to each other. It makes it, in many cases, it's much better and easier. But
and if I may, let's be clear about the relationship as it stands right now. we are the second largest trading partner of the United States. We do a lot of trade going across the border where we're cooperating, first thing. Secondly, we are the largest foreign investor in the United States. $500 billion in the last 5 years alone, probably $8 trillion in the next 5 years if we get the agreement that we expect to get. Thirdly, there are areas, as the President just said, where conflict, maybe not so much conflict, we compete. There are areas where we compete, and it's in those areas where we have to come to an agreement that works. But there are more areas where we are stronger together, and that's what we're focused on. And we're going to get the right deal. Right deal for America, right deal, obviously, from my perspective, for Canada.
Including one thing that, wait a minute, easy, wait. So one thing where we are working very closely is the Golden Dome. That's the protective mechanism, and you see how that works. It's unbelievable. Ronald Reagan wanted to have it, and at that time they didn't have the technology, even close to the technology, but he was advanced, and we'll be working together on a Golden Dome for the two countries, and it's something that I think is going to be very important, especially when you look at the world, you look at what's happening. We want to have that protection. It's really amazing. The technology is unbelievable.
Mr. President, why do you say some federal workers should not get their back pay? Why do you say some?
Well, you're going to have to figure that out, okay? Ask the Democrats that question.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, just to follow up there, I mean, the law says that when the government is reopened, that workers will receive their back pay. So are you going to define the law there, or what do you?
I follow the law, and what the law says is correct, and I follow the law.
Mr. President, will Canada be leaving empty-handed, or will will Mr. Carney be leaving Washington with a deal on tariffs?
I think they're going to be very happy. We have a lot of things that we're working on that people don't talk about. They talk about, competitiveness. He's a very competitive person. And they talk about things that we don't necessarily agree on. But I think they're going to walk away very happy. I think so.
Mr.
President, on all your trade deals that you've signed, there's been a minimum tariff that countries have got. When USMCA gets renegotiated, do you want a minimum tariff on goods between Canada and the U.S.?
Well, we're going to have tariffs between Canada, and, they have them with us. I will say with our farmers, as you know, they went up to as much as 400%, 250, 300, and even one at 401. We found one having to do with a very small product, but it was high. So we've always had tariffs between the two of us, and actually Canada was charging us very high tariffs on our agricultural things, a lot of our agricultural product, and that's one of the things that we talk about for bringing that down. So this is a mutual thing, but. We've been charged tariffs. Look, we're the king of being screwed by tariffs, just so you understand. And I'm not talking about with Canada. I'm talking about with countries all over the world. When you look at Europe, when you look at China, when you look at all of the almost every country charged the U.S., we didn't charge them because we were led by stupid people in many cases. Stupid people. They took advantage of our country. They're not taking advantage of us anymore. If you looked at European Union, they're all my friends. I don't blame them. I blame our presidents. I blame our past presidents and, business leaders. But we are the king of countries that have been taken advantage of for many, many years. We've been paying trillions and trillions of dollars and receiving nothing at all. As an example, prior to the deal with Europe, where they pay a lot of money, but they're happy and I'm happy. The deal was good. It's a fair deal, but it wasn't fair. You couldn't put a car into Europe. You couldn't sell your agriculture into Europe. You couldn't do anything. And now we have it so that it's open. We charge them tariffs. We didn't charge them tariffs a car. They charge us tremendous. I said to Angela Merkel once, I said, how many cars have gone to Germany from the United States? And she said, well, I don't believe any. And I said, you're right. You're right. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. And they're paying a fair amount. It's just a fair amount. It's not, I could ask for much more. It's a fair amount. But the United States now is using the same thing that they've used on us. And I just can't believe it's taken presidents so long to do this. And again, we're going to treat people fairly. We're going to especially treat Canada fairly. But I can't believe it's taken so long where we get charged and don't charge them. Japan was a good example. We made a deal with Japan. You saw that, Mark? A deal with Japan. It's a much different deal than we've had in the past. But they would send us millions of cars, no charge. We weren't allowed to send them cars. We sent them no cars. I doubt you had one car go into Japan because we were restricted. They didn't want our cars. Same thing with Europe, same thing with other places. So now all we do now is fairness. But fairness leads us to the most successful country there's ever been. You know, we have some advantages over other countries, and we do have a great market. We have an amazing market. But you know what? If I let this go, if we didn't win this election, if we had these people that were running, that were ruining our country, destroying our country with their open borders and men playing in women's sports and transgender from everybody and windmills all over the place, if we allowed that to go on for another couple of years, we would be, I'm not sure that we'd even have a country. Yeah, Brian. And by the way, I'm not sure we would have even had a country. And now we have the most successful country in the world. Brian?
Yes, sir. What is your message to Democrats ahead of a next vote to open up the government? The American people are saying, open the damn government. What's your message to them right now?
Well, they're the ones that started it. They're the ones that have it. And it's almost like a kamikaze attack by them. You want to know the truth? This is like a kamikaze attack. They almost, you know, they have nothing to lose. They've lost the elections. They've lost the presidential election in a landslide. I saw the other day where Kamala said this was a very close election. This was one of the biggest sweeps that anybody's ever had. Won the popular vote by millions, won the Electoral College by a massive amount. They said, if I got 270, that would be great. But I got, I think, 312 or 315, and they got 220. So, you know, we won that. But we won counties. The big thing is counties. So out of all of the counties, thousands and thousands, we got 2,500. They got 525. It was a landslide. And we listened, oh, yes, it was close. It was one of the greatest victories ever. And it was a mandate to do what we're doing. And I hope, and Mark wants this as much as I do, we are very close to making a deal on the Middle East that will bring peace to the Middle East. After all of these years of millions and millions, tens of millions of people being killed, there's a chance to bring peace to the Middle East. In addition to that, I made 7 other deals, and they're, you know, great. And we're, you know, things are happening with respect to Russia, Ukraine. That's one that last week, Mark, 7,812 people were killed. Soldiers, mostly soldiers. Yep. But 7,000, more than 7,000, almost 8,000 soldiers were killed. It's a crazy thing. I thought that would have been one of the easy ones. I get along very well with Putin, and I thought that would have been, I'm very disappointed in him because I thought this would have been an easy one to settle, but it's turned out to be maybe tougher than the Middle East. We'll see what happens with the Middle East. The Middle East. I think go ahead, behind, yes.
Is the fentanyl crisis over with Canada, with the Canadian border?
Is what?
The fentanyl crisis.
No, it's not over. It's never, I think it's never going to be over, frankly. But they've done, Canada's worked hard, and they've done a much better job than in the past. We have very few people coming in through our southern border, too. We've worked with Canada, and we've worked with Mexico, so we've made it a lot better.
Look, any is too much. Any is too much.
Well, wait.
I just, on fentanyl, any amount is too much. So we've gotten it down. It's down substantially. It's less than 1%, but it's, look, it's still too much. It's too much at home in Canada.
A lot of people.
Yeah, we got to stamp it out.
On USMCA, are the two of you both committed to seeing it through in the renegotiation of that deal that you made?
Well, we can renegotiate it, and that would be good, or we could just do different deals. We're allowed to do different deals if we want. We might make deals that are better for the individual
What's your preference?
countries. I don't care. I want to make whatever the best deal is for this country, and also very much with Canada in mind. Yeah, go ahead, please. Go ahead, sir.
Sir, on China, what more can the United States and Canada do together to counter China?
Well, you have to be able to compete. They're a great competitor, and Mark and I both know that, and you have to be able to compete. We have big advantages over China for lots of different reasons, and I think we're doing very well with China. I get along very well with President Xi. I'm going to be meeting him in a few weeks, as you know. I'll be meeting him in South Korea. But we've had a very good relationship for a long time. But you have to be able to compete. To do well with China, if you can't compete, you're not going to do well with China. And Canada is very competitive. I can tell you that. Canada is a very competitive country. And I think Canada's done very well over the years with China.
Yeah, we have. But we'll do better together on that.
Mr. President, on Golden Dome, Middle East, what guarantees are you giving your Arab partners that Israel will not resume its offensive after the hostages are released?
Well, the primary guarantee is once this deal happens, if it does happen, look, they're in negotiations right now, we are going to do everything possible. We have a lot of power, and we're going to do everything possible to make sure everybody adheres to the deal. Okay?
Are you concerned about the delays at airports, and how do you see the shutdown moving?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's they're all Democrat delays. There are delays at the airport. That's standard. And again, this is something that every day we put forth a bill. It's just a continuation. It's a very simple thing to sign and very simple to do. And I really think that these are people that I think they have nothing to lose. They have a party that's out of control. They have no leader. Nobody knows who the leader is. I look at people with very low IQs like Crockett, this woman Crockett. I never met her, but she's a low IQ individual. I look at AOC talking about how if they want to negotiate, they can come to my office. She's not in that position to do that. And who the hell is she to say that? And then I watch Nancy Pelosi not knowing what to do. I watch their leadership. Look, Schumer is petrified of primary because he's not going to win probably against anybody in a primary. You know, Schumer did the right thing, but he handled it badly originally a year ago. He did probably the right thing, but he handled it badly. I think Schumer's incapable of making a deal. They are a mess. They're a party that has no leadership. They have, and they have no policy. You know, I think we have great leadership, but we also have great policy. We have strong borders. We have no men and women's sports. I mean, basic things. We're not going to take your child away and change the sex of your child. We're not going to do things like that. What they're doing to the country is so incredible. And they got away with it with all their woke crap, and now it's stopped. And we have a country that's based on common sense and strength and intelligence. I mean, we have the United States of America, and I say it all the time. Other leaders have told me this. Mark hasn't yet, but I think he would. A year ago, we were a dead country, and now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world. Maybe Canada. I'll give Canada, but because I do like Canada. But you know, we're the hottest country in the world right now. There's never been a country that has the kind of money coming into it. There's never been anything like this. There has never been a country that if you take $1 trillion, that would be unbelievable. We're going to have over $20 trillion invested in this country. There's never been anything like what you're seeing, and it's based on good policy and common sense and leadership. Yeah.
Mr. President, what is Canada giving you in return? If you say Mr. Carney is going to be leaving Washington happy, what's Canada giving you in return?
Well, you'll find out, but I think the people of Canada, they will love us again. Most of them still do. If you say only 25%, I assume a lot of them, I think they love us. And you know what? I'm not the biggest hockey fan, but I like it a lot. And I watched some of the greatest hockey games I've ever. How good were those games, right?
Yeah, very good. We're coming down for the World Series, Mr. President.
Oh, good.
Canadians.
By the way, your team is looking pretty good. Yeah, go.
Mr. President, will you sign a trade deal with Canada that doesn't include supply managed goods like dairy, for example? If the federal government
Well, a deal would include dairy. I mean, it's going to include everything. We'll do a comprehensive.
Mr. President, have you identified programs to eliminate under this shutdown?
Oh, sure.
Which ones?
We have a lot. I'm not going to tell you, but we'll be announcing it pretty soon. But we have a lot of things that we're going to eliminate and permanently eliminate. You know, one of the things that we have is some advantage, you could say, but because of the shutdown, which I think they made a big mistake, we're able to take out billions and billions of dollars of waste, fraud, and abuse, and they've handed it, you know, on a silver platter. And you know Russell Vogt, he's a serious person, very serious person, and he's sitting there and he's getting ready to cut things. And this is something that was handed to us by, I assume, Schumer. I just don't know if Schumer has any power anymore. I look at your leadership, I don't know who to speak to. I'll tell you what, I'm getting calls from Democrats wanting to meet. I never even heard their names before, and they're claiming to be leaders. The Democrats have no leader. They remind me of Somalia, okay? You know? And I met the president of Somalia. I told him about the problem he's got. I said, you have somebody from Somalia who's telling us how to run our country. She's from Somalia. He said, would you like to take her back? He said, no, I don't want her. Okay, you know who I'm talking about? Say it again, please.
How many permanent jobs are you talking about to be eliminated?
Well, I can tell you, I'll be able to tell you that in 4 or 5 days if this keeps going on. If this keeps going on, it'll be substantial. And a lot of those jobs will never come back. But you're going to have a lot closer to a balanced budget, actually.
Is there anything the Prime Minister has done that's making it more difficult to reach a deal?
Say it?
Is there anything the Prime Minister has done that's making it more difficult or easier to reach a deal?
No, I think he's a great prime minister. I mean, he could represent me anytime. I will tell you, I'm not saying that because he's here. No, he is a very strong, very good leader. He's a nice man, but he could be nasty. He could be very nasty, maybe as nasty as anybody.
How?
I think Canada, let me put it this way, I can tell you this because I deal with lots of leaders all over the world. He is a world-class leader. He's a man that knows what he wants, and I'm not surprised to see that he won the election and won it substantially, and I would think he's more popular now. He's a good man. He does a great job, and he's a tough negotiator.
So then what's holding things up? If he's a great man and you want to do a deal with Canada, why aren't you?
Because I want to be a great man, too. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. That could have been. I think you got that one. That could have been. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, that pretty much wraps it up right there, man. I mean, that says it all. President Trump and Prime Minister Carney discussing the tariffs. Hopefully, it makes something happen. It's tough. I'm in Chicago. ICE, National Guard on the way. ICE already here. Disruption, crime. Man, it's just on and popping. I don't know. I can't leave. I don't want to leave. That's for sure. I don't want to go anywhere. But they're coming. The mayor of Chicago yesterday, he gave a news conference, and police chief gave a news conference after the mayor. The mayor talked about how CPD, Chicago Police, is dealing with ICE, how they're responding to them or not, different things like that. Let's see if I can get it up here somewhere. And it's difficult. It's difficult for families. It's difficult for people. It's just difficult. Let's see if we can get to this this live that he gave somewhere in here. Yeah, because those things are something. They just are. Where was it at? was about, okay, authoritarian rights or something like that. Let's go down here to, where's the mayor? Nope. This might be it right here. So this was actually yesterday, Mayor Brandon Johnson talking about his executive order amid protests against ICE. And really what he's speaking about is how the residents, the citizens of Chicago deal with that. And the response from the mayor's office as well as Chicago Police Department. But police department has something slightly different to say, like right after this. But yeah, let's take a listen at this guy.
Horrible conditions already, and this was before ICE trampled on them. But when they came in the middle of the night, they terrorized the families that were living there. There were children who were without clothing. They were zip-tied, taken outside at 3 o'clock in the morning. A senior resident, an American citizen, with no warrants, was taken outside and handcuffed for 3 hours. Doors were blown off their hinges, walls were broken through. Immigration agents coming from Black Hawk helicopters to set up snipers on nearby buildings. This is America. One resident described the situation plainly, and I quote, "They had immigrants in one van and black people in another van." This raid wasn't about public safety. It was about and it's certainly not about immigration. This was about a show of authoritarianism, a forceful display of tyranny. They sent a clear message to all Chicagoans. They said, "We do not respect your rights. We can do anything we want and we will film it and put it on social media." The very next day, ICE agents chased people outside of a homeless shelter on the south side and then caused a car accident on the west side. Immigration agents put a young black man in a chokehold on the side of the street in East Garfield Park. Witnesses, one of which you will hear from this morning, bravely filmed the interaction, eventually leading to this person's release. On Friday, agents dispersed tear gas in the middle of a busy city street. Chicagoans were hit with chemical agents while walking their children home from school. A couple ran from tear gas with a 2-year-old child in their care. Agents went into the Humboldt Park Health Center and detained a sitting elected official, Alder Jessie Fuentes of the 26th Ward, because she simply requested to see a warrant. On Saturday, they escalated even further by shooting a U.S. citizen. They claimed it was defensive fire, but frankly, we cannot trust anything that comes out of the administration. It was only a few short weeks ago that they claimed officers were severely injured in the killing of Mr. Villegas Gonzalez in Franklin Park. A Sun-Times investigation found that the agent said on a body camera footage that it was, in fact, nothing major. We have a rogue, reckless group of heavily armed mass individuals roaming throughout our city that are not accountable to the people of Chicago. Their actions put all Chicagoans at risk. When protesters confronted federal immigration agents in Brighton Park on Saturday, they were met with pepper balls and more repression. CPD responded to attempt to de-escalate the situation, and ICE tear gassed our police officers.
Tyrone looks
Let
like
me be clear.
6 jobs.
Tear gassing the women and men who serve as Chicago Police Department officers is not how we make our city safer.
How many people are
I'm calling for a full investigation into this incident and into all of the brutality that we have seen over the past week. They are taking police resources that should be in our neighborhoods, serving
I'll send you guys
Chicagoans,
the
and diverting
access to
them
the
to
links to
deal
the
with the
reports, so you can
chaos
just
that
pull
they
them
are
up.
causing. We need ICE out of our city so that we can continue to focus on the strategies that have been working to drive violent crime down. These actions tell us a simple truth. If we allow this administration to take away due process for anyone, we will allow them to take away due process for everyone. They told us that this was about the worst of the worst. In reality, they are going after anyone who objects to families being ripped apart and community members being disappeared. ICE lies and people die. We cannot allow this to continue. We must take action more drastic than what we have taken before, because what we are seeing is a more radical attempt to undermine our democracy. And today we are signing an executive order aimed at reining in this out-of-control administration. The order establishes ICE-free zones. That means that city property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as staging grounds for these raids. Our school parking lots are not for ICE to load their weapons. They are for Chicagoans who drop their kids off to learn. Our libraries are not for ICE to prepare for a raid. They're for Chicagoans to read and relax. Our parks are not for ICE to set up checkpoints. They are for Chicagoans to play and enjoy. Private establishments can partner with us to make it clear that private property is private property, and ICE cannot enter establishments without a valid warrant. Private entities may voluntarily choose to display signage to designate their property as part of a citywide network of community spaces that stand together in affirming the safety, dignity, and belonging of all of our residents. By extending this protection beyond city-owned land, the order builds a broad civic shield that limits the reach of harmful enforcement practices. It strengthens neighborhood solidarity, and it reaffirms Chicago's role as a welcoming city. The fact is, we cannot allow them to rampage throughout our city with no checks or balances. Nobody is above the law. If we break the law, you should be held accountable. If Congress will not check this administration, then Chicago will. I know there are many Chicagoans who are disturbed by the images and the videos that they are seeing on the news and social media. There are many who are scared and shocked by what they are seeing. The truth is that we are at a tipping point. This administration is trying to divide us and pit people groups against one another. They want to divide and conquer. And as I said, in the South Shore, and this has been said very clearly, black people in one van and immigrants in another. In the face of this unprecedented threat, this moment calls for unity. Black, brown, white, Asian, young, old, north side, west side, south side, we must all pull aside our differences and defend one another, because if we allow this to continue to be unchecked, by the time we realize what's happening, it'll be too late. And this executive order is a step towards accountability and is calling for the basic rule of law. In the coming days and weeks, we may be pushed, if not forced, to take even more dramatic action if this administration continues to escalate and provoke our people. In closing, last night I spoke with the governor, and he informed me that the Trump administration is deploying Texas National Guard to our city. We will speak to our response later today. We'll do that with the governor as well as the Attorney General. For now, let me just say that we are unequivocally going to continue to reject the military occupation of our city. The Trump administration must end the war on Chicago. The Trump administration must end this war against Americans. The Trump administration must end its attempt to dismantle our democracy. Right as we are making historic progress in reducing violence, the Trump administration is seeking to destabilize our city and provoke chaos. We said that they would use ICE as a pretext to send in the National Guard. And now they are doing just that. I've also said for the last couple of years that the extreme right in this country refused to accept the results of the Civil War. They have repeatedly called for a rematch. But in the coming weeks, we will use this opportunity to build greater resistance. Chicagoans are clear. Militarizing our troops in our city as justification to further escalate a war in Chicago will not be tolerated. The past teaches us that just because we are on the right side of history, that doesn't mean that we will succeed. It's going to take courage and determination, bravery, unity. But one thing that I know for sure in this great nation, this moment that we are in, Chicago was built for this moment. Immigrants from around the world, descendants of slaves, have come to this city to make it the global capital of the world. And now we stand in a moment that is testing our very humanity, and the city of Chicago will stand the test of time. Thank you very much. And now, please welcome to the podium Pastor Chris Harris.
Say good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Pastor Chris Harris, and I want to begin by saying thank you to our mayor, Brandon Johnson, and to the many city leaders and constituents who are present here today. I serve as the senior pastor of two churches on the south side of Chicago, Bright Star Church Chicago and St. James Church Chicago. I'm also the founder and CEO of two social services agencies, Bright Star Community Outreach and Bright Star Community Development Corporation, where we manage a homeless shelter that supports more than 260 residents, housing both men and women. I'm joined here today together with our executive directors of both organizations, Lucretia Kindred and Carl West. Together, our agencies employ more than 140 Chicagoans. And every day, we work to uplift, to serve, and protect the most vulnerable among us. For those who need emotional support, please call our Bright Star Trauma Helpline at 833-TURN-123. If there was ever a time that we needed support, now is that time. Just a few days ago at our Bright Star homeless shelter in Bronzeville, the Black metropolis, ICE agents raided our facility. Without warning, they came in. They handcuffed, detained, and took 4 residents. Let me be clear. They were not criminals. They were human beings trying to survive, trying to heal, and trying to find home, shelter. Our shelter is not harboring criminals. We're housing the unhoused. We're offering dignity to those who society has discarded. And yet, while our city is showing compassion, there are those who are cheering this chaos. Some in power claim Chicago is too violent, and they say that is the reason that ICE and soldiers are being deployed here. But let me remind you of something crucial. Neither the governor of Illinois nor the mayor of Chicago ever requested migrants to be sent here. If you want to hold people accountable, don't just hold those accountable who are powerless. Hold those accountable who are powerful. Arrest those political officials who heinously use government money to charter planes and buses to send migrants and immigrants to sanctuary cities like ours.
You are listening live to a news conference taking place right now. That was Pastor Chris Harris speaking out about ICE agents' conduct in the city. Prior to that, some strong words from Mayor Brandon Johnson. This news conference about an executive order that Johnson is signing that would prohibit the federal government from using public lots for staging, and also affirming the rights of price-free zone.
And the zones he talked about would not just be on city property, but he also talked about, again, those private people, those businesses that could sign in on this. Also school parking lots, libraries, parks, anywhere where families are and do not want to have that type of action in their communities. We'll take
Fox News Alert. Violent, chaotic. This is Chicago. Another weekend of this. Federal agents were forced to fend off violent rioters who were throwing rocks at them and screaming and cursing at them. And the White House has authorized at least 300 Illinois National Guard troops to try to deal with the growing crime crisis. And just today, Illinois filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration over the deployment of help in that city. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. Outside Chicago, Broadview is the site of an illegal immigrant processing center that has been in our focus for days now. Border Patrol agents there are in danger, and they had to call in local help for a massive group of protesters which surrounded them. All of this over the weekend. Chicago police officers say their bosses ordered them to stay away. Listen to the dispatch audio here.
And again, per the chief of patrol, we have all the units that per 999, chief of patrol said all units clear out from there. We're not sending anybody over to that location.
We're not sending anybody over to that location. The nation's largest police union with full-throated condemnation. The group's president said members are shocked and appalled, adding they believe that when an officer called the switch and blamed the president,
they want mayhem on the ground. They want to create the war zone so that they can send in even more troops.
It's a misuse of the National Guard. They're not needed in this particular role.
There is no emergency here in Chicago or in the state of Illinois. The only crisis that we have is the chaos that has been caused by Donald Trump and his administration.
Senior correspondent Mike Tobin is in Broadview with more on this. Mike.
And Harris, we're hearing from a lot of rank-and-file Chicago cops who say that they are outraged that they were ordered to stand down after federal agents were attacked. The communication for the stand down appears to have come from the chief of patrol himself over the communications platform with the Office of Emergency Management and Communication, reading very clearly, no units will respond to this. Multiple police sources have confirmed that that message is authentic, and it is backed up by audio of the stand-down order.
So the chief of patrol, clear everybody up. We're not responding over there. All right, and 999, just to confirm, 39th Police in Kedzie, they were saying that they were being surrounded by that large crowd, and they were requesting the police were not sending, I'm waving off all the cars heading to 39th Police in Kedzie. Again, those are the orders we're being given.
Now, the official statement from Chicago Police Department reads, CPD responded to the scene to document the incident. CPD officers were also on the scene to maintain public safety and traffic control. It happened in Brighton Park. The scene was triggered when two individuals allegedly rammed a Border Patrol vehicle with their cars. Border Patrol agents shot the driver of one of the allegedly attacking vehicles. The drivers are now charged federally, but the incident triggered a riot. That's when the calls for help went out. Now, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson just moments ago dodged questions about whether that order tracks back to him, but he says he doubts the narrative of the Border Patrol agents.
They claimed it was defensive fire, but frankly, we cannot trust anything that comes out of the administration. We have a rogue, reckless group of heavily armed masked individuals roaming throughout our city that are not accountable to the people of Chicago. Their actions put all Chicagoans at risk.
And we knew this was coming, but the Illinois Attorney General has just made it official. The state of Illinois is now suing the Trump administration, claiming that the president is using American soldiers to punish his political enemies. Harris, back to you.
Mike Tobin, thank you very much. Let's go to Jono Caldwell, my first guest, Fox News political analyst. So, Jono, you were home in Chicago a couple of weeks ago. I mean, that has been your childhood and adult home. And you talked with people about this. Are the elected officials listening to the citizens?
Absolutely not, Harris. And I'll tell you, I had an event for the Caldwell Foundation for Public Safety. We had hundreds of people there, white and black almost evenly, Democrats and Republicans, all saying the same thing. They want President Trump's help. Those pleas, those begs and cries have been ignored by Brandon Johnson. They've been ignored by J.B. Pritzker. And it's no surprise the images we're seeing on our screens right now. Brandon Johnson and J.B. Pritzker have been setting the stage for this kind of chaos for weeks. Ever since President Trump said that he wanted to go into Chicago and help clean it up, they've been setting the stage saying, hey, we got to stand up as Chicagoans and push back on them. This is what the mayor has been saying. So it is no surprise to me that they're doing this and now they're trying to hide their hands, especially with what we see with the Chicago police. How dare they? People are in need of help. Send the police officers. But you imagine why crime has been so bad, because the mayor there has been using the police department as a political pawn, not responding to calls. This is absolutely unfortunate and not what we should have in any American city, Harris.
Look, we were in that city for a couple of reasons last summer. One was the NABJ debacle, where President Trump, then candidate, visited. You were there. I was there. The other, of course, for the DNC. We have seen Chicago much previous to this situation unhinged. We've seen the fence lines go up to try to protect a convention-going public, and then they go down after everybody starts to leave town and everything falls back in, and there's chaos. Is the mayor at this point, based on all that we have seen up close, Giano, trying to use the cover of, protesting ICE to cover up the crime stuff that he hasn't dealt with since he's been in office?
Whatever they can use is a distraction from their failures. Keep in mind, Brandon Johnson has an approval rating of about 5%, the lowest rated mayor in the history of the city of Chicago. He has continuously failed on this issue. So whatever cover they can use, they will use. We have, as of estimates, almost 500,000 undocumented people in the state of Illinois. There's a lot of work to be done, and I want to congratulate Todd Lyons, the ICE acting director, for being so surgical with sending teams in, and certainly keeping Americans informed as to what ICE is experiencing on the ground. These things matter. They very much matter. And the people of Chicago are happy to see those who came into their city and committed crime against the citizens there, to see them leave. That's what we should all want as Americans. We want safe cities. We want safe streets. We want our kids to be able to go to school without the fear of coming back in a body bag. And that's what we've seen too many times in the city of Chicago.
It seems like a singular responsibility and job for those elected officials. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem highlighted just how dangerous things have gotten for her agents. Watch together.
They're making plans to ambush them and to kill them. We have specific officers and agents that have bounties that have been put out on their heads. It's been $2,000 to kidnap them, $10,000 to kill them. They've released their pictures. They've sent them between their networks, and it's an extremely dangerous situation and unprecedented. So we've put protective detail around those individuals, changed some of our operations to keep our officers safe.
Well, thank the good Lord, they are professionals. And nothing has come to that. But it's their professionalism that we lean on, because it sounds like the elected officials don't care about their safety.
100%, Harris. And I got to tell you, knowing what we've experienced in our country as of late, 2 assassination attempts on President Trump, Charlie Kirk assassinated, the rhetoric from the left about ICE has been extreme. And my concern is the National Democratic Party and, of course, the local officials, whether they be in California, Illinois, wherever they are, they have to turn down this rhetoric. You see what she just said, $10,000 to kill an ICE agent. This is not what we stand for as Americans, and it should be condemned from the Democratic Party. But I have yet to hear that at this point, Harris.
Yeah, I'm waiting for censures to fly. I mean, they're fueling this. And look, you can call names. They're not even shy about it on the left. All right, Giano, got to let you go. Thank you so very much for being in focus.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our
this hour with the alarming scenes coming out of Chicago and the surrounding area, where the Trump administration has escalated its immigration crackdown. Officers were seen in riot gear, gas masks, and armored cars as protesters gathered yesterday outside a detention center. At times, there were confrontations with federal agents, leading to a number of arrests. Those same agents have been seen in tactical gear, roaming the streets openly carrying guns in a show of intimidation. And then there was this early morning raid of an apartment building earlier this week that involved around 300 federal agents, including those rappelling down from a Black Hawk helicopter. As the Chicago Sun-Times reports, quote, armed federal agents in military fatigues busted down their doors overnight, pulling men, women, and children from their apartments. Some of them naked. Residents and witnesses said. Agents approached or entered nearly every apartment in this 5-story building.
I want to be clear.
U.S. citizens were among those detained for hours. Agents claimed the neighborhood was, quote, a location known to be frequented by Trinidad Aragua members and their associates. But DHS, of course, gave no evidence to support that assertion, and authorities did not confirm that any of the people arrested were members of the Venezuelan gang. Joining us now is Chicago.
We interrupt programming for breaking news from NBC Chicago.
Good afternoon to you. I'm Marion Brooks. Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling is about to hold a press conference. He's speaking out as federal immigration enforcement efforts continue in Chicago. Let's listen in.
What's going on in the city? So I want to be clear about one thing. This is about law enforcement response to these types of incidents. So I want to be clear that I'm going to limit my responses to that. So it would be appreciated if your questions are around our law enforcement response to what we're seeing here with federal agents and immigration enforcement and how we respond. I've been quiet a little too long because I want to stay out of the politics of this, because as you know, there's a lot of politics around this. I don't play politics. I've told you that before. I'm the head of a department that enforces the law. We have to be politically neutral if we are going to enforce the law the way that it's supposed to be enforced, impartially. We want to make sure that when we show up, we're keeping every single person in this city safe, and we want to keep the peace. That's our jobs. And that's what our men and women out there every single day are doing, putting their lives on the line to keep this city safe. So I just want to be clear about a few things. The events that occurred on Saturday when there was a shooting involving ICE agents. So I'm going to start with a timeline. It started out with our 2 deputy chiefs who responded to the scene. That would be Deputy Chief Brian Kinane and Deputy Chief Gabriella Shemash. They did an excellent job over there. The narrative is out there that CPD was not on scene. CPD did not show up. Let me just put all of that to rest. At 10:32 a.m., CPD receives a call of a person shot at 39th and Kedzie. By 10:36 a.m., CPD responds. They located a woman who flagged them down. She had been shot. She stated that she had been shot by federal agents. CFD was called. She was taken to the hospital to have her gunshot wounds treated. At 11:06, CPD officers are at the hospital with this individual who had been shot. At 11:25 a.m., CPD units are holding down the scene where the offending vehicle was located. And when I say the offending vehicle, we're talking about the vehicle that smashed into the Border Patrol vehicle. At 11:36 a.m., the scene is then turned over to federal authorities for their investigation after CPD was clear that there was a shooting that involved this particular person who was at the hospital. At 12:12 p.m., in a separate incident, and I believe people have been conflating these two things, in a separate incident, from the shooting, there was a vehicle that rammed the federal agents off the road, ran them off the road at 3200 West 35th Street. They crashed as a result of it. That offending vehicle also struck another vehicle in that location, another federal vehicle in that location, and then fled the scene. Our officers arrived on the scene to do the reports and document everything that happened. We have no documented injuries from that incident. At 12:28 p.m., federal agents called for CPD to assist due to a large crowd gathering at 39th and Kedzie. At 1:09 p.m., additional CPD units are en route to 39th and Kedzie. At 1:15 at 39th and Kedzie, where CPD is on scene, a group of protesters began moving barricades and federal agents deployed tear gas. At 2:56 p.m., objects are being thrown at CPD by members of the public. Federal agents again deployed gas to leave the area. So let me just kind of break down what happened there, because at 3:48, everything was all clear. When our officers arrived on scene, they met with the federal agents who were out there. The federal agents had deployed chemical agents. They deployed chemical agents while our officers were there. Those who will tell you that our officers weren't there, say that to the 27 officers who were affected by the chemical agents that were deployed by federal agents. There were 27 reports done to document our officers who were affected by that gas. I've since had a conversation with federal agents, and on that particular day, I spoke with the leadership of the federal agency. We talked about things as to how we were going to work this out. You see, communication is the key here. Communication does not mean collaboration. This had nothing to do with immigration enforcement. What it had to do with a scene where someone in our city was shot, and we, as CPD, are responsible for showing up, documenting that, even when the shooting and the investigation has been taken over by the FBI. We stayed out there for the crime scene to make sure that evidence was preserved, because if that evidence isn't preserved, a proper and a well-performed investigation cannot be done if we don't preserve the crime scene. If we allow people to breach that area and contaminate the crime scene, it hurts the investigation. We have a duty to do so. So I need to be clear about a few things. When a crime is being committed, CPD is going to show up. And it doesn't matter if there are ICE agents there, we have a duty to investigate and protect our city. Now, there are a lot of talking heads out there. There are a lot of politics being used here. And people are using this for their political talking points. Well, my officers are not political pawns. My leadership team, not political pawns. Their lives are too important to play politics with these men and women who face danger every single day. This is not a game. This is not a joke. This is still our city. And we still have a responsibility to maintain safety and calm in our city. Now, there are a couple of things that I want to address. One, what we have to deal with as a department. Because I want to be clear to those who have never done the job, who haven't done the job in years, who weren't on scene, who don't know the facts or have the facts. But they've got a lot of solutions, or a lot of ideas of what happened or what should have happened. Let me first talk about the Trust Act. The Trust Act prohibits law enforcement in the state of Illinois from engaging in assisting federal agents when it comes to immigration enforcement. We abide by that law. The city ordinance, the Welcoming City Ordinance, goes a little further. It even prohibits us from asking someone their status. We abide by that ordinance because in law enforcement, we don't make the laws, we uphold them. And we're sworn to do so. And we take our oath seriously. Engaging with federal agents, we do it on a regular basis. We have task force officers who are out there every single day working to stop human trafficking, drug enforcement, gun violence, gun recoveries, search warrants, and everything in between when it comes to violent crime in our city. We have a great partnership with our federal agents, and we still do, and we will continue to work with them around violent crime. But let me explain how important it is to understand how difficult it is for our officers at times. Because when we look at the Trust Act and the Welcoming City Ordinance, sometimes there's a struggle when you're walking that line to make sure that you're not violating either one of those things, and at the same time enforcing the law the way that we're supposed to. One thing about law enforcement, I'll tell you this right now, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But we accept that. So I'm not going to stand here and make excuses or pretend like the job is not a struggle, so we're going to make excuses about it. No, we're not going to do that. Again, these men and women go out there every single day, and these are the things that they fight through. And my leadership team wants to make sure that our officers don't get caught up in something where they end up in an investigation, fairly or unfairly, and they want to make sure that these officers are safe and that they can keep everyone else safe. So although we do not engage in immigration enforcement, we are going to enforce the law when the laws are violated. So let me be clear to the public about certain things. You have to excuse me, I'm a little dehydrated. Let me make this clear. Federal agents, ICE, HSI, are officers. They are agents of law enforcement. If you box them in with vehicles, it is reasonable for them to believe that they are being ambushed and that this could end in a deadly situation. And it's reasonable for them to use force based on those conditions. Do not box in any law enforcement officer. You are breaking the law when you do that. And you are putting yourself in danger. Law enforcement agents around. The question is why? What do you plan on doing? It's also reasonable for them to believe that you're eventually going to do harm to them. If you ram any vehicle, especially that one that contains law enforcement agents, and that's any law enforcement, local, state, federal, county, and you do this intentionally, this is considered deadly force. Deadly force is anything that can cause great bodily harm or death. When you plow into a vehicle that contains law enforcement agents, you're using deadly force. And they can use deadly force in response to stop you. We need to be clear about these laws. We cannot become a society where we just decide to take everything in our own hands and start to commit crimes against law enforcement. It is a crime. You may not like what they're doing. I can understand that there's a lot of emotions out there, but that does not mean that you get to commit a crime, especially one that could lead to deadly force. We need to keep everyone safe. Our responsibilities when it comes to federal agents, and I've been asked these questions, we do not interfere with the duties and responsibilities of federal agents. We don't have to agree with it. It doesn't matter. You don't have to agree with it. We do not interfere with their orders. And when they go out to carry out their orders, they will do that the way that they're trained to do it and their understanding of what it is they have to do. Another one. CPD will not arrest and cannot arrest federal agents because someone deems what they're doing is illegal or unlawful. Their rules of engagement are different from CPD and other local law enforcement agents. We need to be clear about this. If we're not clear about this, we will see another event like we saw Saturday. We cannot move like this in this city. If we want to keep the peace in this city, we need to be smart about how we do things. And attacking law enforcement under any circumstances is not safe for anyone. Because as I've said before, a member of law enforcement who cannot protect himself or herself cannot protect anyone else. And we have a responsibility to make sure that we protect ourselves and each other so that we can protect everyone else in this city. If for any reason a crime is being committed, an ICE agent, state, local, police officers, if it involves law enforcement, we are going to show up. And whatever's going on there, we're going to work to stop it, put an end to it, calm the situation down. And if we need to stay there to continue to keep the situation calm, we will do exactly that. So I want to be clear about one of the things that we're going to do now. What we're going to do, and this is my decision because I need to be firm on this. When we show up to a scene and a crowd gathers, CPD is going to step out there. We're going to make sure that we maintain that scene and we keep people calm. This is our city, and we're going to make sure that we bring some type of calm or resolution to whatever's going on at that scene. We will be there. Now, when we look at what has happened, there are some things that we can work on. Because whenever you see something for the first time and you respond to it, there's always something that you can do better. That's what we do. And that's why we're having an after action about what happened so that we can prepare if something like this happens again, or to prepare to make sure that we can avoid it. So we learned some things. Now, I'm going to allow some questions from everyone here. I'll do my best to answer your questions to the best of my ability. Again, I would like for everyone to stay on topic as to what we're talking about here right now. And when it's over, there's some things that I'm probably going to touch on if we don't get to them with the questions. So go ahead.
start here. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Madison with Black Club Chicago. Superintendent, when you said there were 27 agents affected by the chemical agents used, can you expand on that? What do you mean by these officers were affected?
Well, thanks for that question, Madison. Our officers were out there. There were chemical agents dropped. Our officers were pulled from other locations to go over there. On Saturday, we had multiple events going on, including a large protest in the downtown area. So in order to help out at this location, we pulled officers from other places. They did not have the equipment to fight off a chemical agent, and they were affected by it. Were there any major injuries? No. Our officers are resilient and tough, and they were actually pretty tough on the scene. And but we made sure that it was documented, just in case they had some after effects from it. We just want to make sure that our officers are safe. So those officers are doing good, and then thank you for the question, for asking.
Sarah Schulte with ABC 7. Good afternoon, Superintendent. At any time, maybe you can clear this up too, at any time on Saturday were CPD officers told by dispatchers to stand down?
Well, I don't know about them being told by dispatchers. There was some communication between boots on the ground, a supervisor, and the chief of patrol. So there was some communication by phone. There was something that was put out there that there was an internal message that came from the chief of patrol. That is absolutely not true. There is no internal message. There was a phone conversation. I'm not sure until we get to our after action all of the exact language that was there, but I have had a conversation with the chief of patrol who was concerned about officers showing up on the scene. The chief of patrol at that time had no information that anyone was in danger. And let me just be clear about one other thing when it comes to these federal agents. These federal agents can handle themselves, all right? We've been out there and we've seen it. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to leave them because we know that they can handle themselves. We need to make sure that we have our officers and enough of them to respond to a scene if they are being surrounded. So were they told to stand down? Our officers were not told to stand down. Our officers were out there throughout the entire event. I would never tell our officers to stand down, because if our officers were in trouble and we needed help from other officers, I would expect those officers to step in and help us. And it's the same thing that we do on our side. When someone is in trouble, we're going to step in. So to get a little more information about that, we'll know by tomorrow what that exact conversation was.
Superintendent, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. JC Navarrete, NBC Chicago. Going off the point here, damned if you do, damned if you don't, as you mentioned. How do you toe that line between showing up and providing backup for a fellow officer who may be in need, but not helping them and execute their orders that are, of course, from a federal level? How do you toe that line between both of those?
You know, doing the right thing, showing up on the scene, doing the right thing, preparing for the backlash, the rumors, the things that people write and say, the things that people accuse you of. Officers deal with this on a regular basis. And this is why wellness for officers is so important, because this is the type of thing that an officer has to go home and kind of decompress from, right? You show up to a job, you know you're there to make sure that people are safe. And if there are immigration officers there, they're now being accused of enforcing immigration. They now become the subject of an investigation. They don't know how that investigation is going to unfold. But on my end, it's my responsibility to explain these situations. It's my responsibility to take that off of the backs of my officers, that when they go there and do the right thing, that they can be certain that their superintendent is going to stand up for them for doing what they're supposed to do and doing the job the right way, and that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Hi, Superintendent Saramaki, CBS.
Hi, sir.
This is, I guess, part clarification, part question. I think you mentioned you met the day before on how we're going to work this out. Was that a meeting on Friday with federal partners?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if you understood what I was saying.
Yeah, I don't think I did. So I just wanted to clarify. Have you met, I think you mentioned you met the day before to talk about how we were going to work this out.
No. So I actually have contact with federal agents. And the reason that I talk to them is because when we have a situation that's volatile, that could blow up, that could turn into a full-blown riot, we have to have this communication. Because if we're going to keep the peace and we're going to keep this city as safe as we can possibly keep it, we need to have that communication. The rules of engagement for federal agents and the rules of engagement for CPD are completely different. There are things that these agents do that we don't do here in the city. So we need to make sure that we have an understanding of how we're going to go about keeping the peace at a scene when a crime has been committed, how we're going to stop violence if that's going to happen. And I had what was a very fruitful conversation that stopped Saturday from ending in a riot-like situation. And we're going to continue to do that.
Can you elaborate on what those strategies were then that prevented maybe things?
Well, I won't go into too much with that, but what I will say is this. Having a conversation about our officers going in, taking over the front line, making sure that we're standing out in front of these protesters so that they can then move to the inner perimeter and do what they needed to do to maintain that crime scene, get that crime scene taken care of as soon as possible, get them out of there as soon as possible. That brings down the boiling point. So if we're working to make sure that we're keeping the peace, this has nothing to do with immigration. It has to do with keeping the peace in our city and keeping calm.
Hi, Superintendent Sophie with the Sun-Times.
Hi,
I don't
Sophie.
know if you could talk a little bit more about, we're going to be involved in scenes like this now. Will it look different from how it looked Saturday? Did this federal leadership you spoke with have anything to say about those 27 agents who were affected by chemical gas?
Oh, absolutely. He was extremely concerned about it. We are going to have further conversations about it. He was also appreciative of the fact that we came in, stepped in, and he was the first to say that this could have turned into a full-blown riot, and it didn't. So CPD, again, just can never say enough about how proud I am of those officers going in, being converged on like that, stepping in, and making sure that they kept the peace there.
Brandon with WBBM News Radio. I think during the DNC, you kind of showed and ushered in what looked like a new era of crowd control and how that might look like successful crowd control. Are you going to be utilizing any of those techniques that were learned and trained for during the DNC? And the second part of this is when you're doing crowd control around these federal agents, will federal agents then be allowed to join in? And would the techniques that, like we see in Broadview that are being used, or other gas being dispersed throughout the city, are those going to be included into your crowd control techniques?
No, because that, and let me just go back to your first question, and it's a great one, and thank you for that. Our officers are trained, and we continue that training just in case we have other civil unrest or protests that are going on, First Amendment activity. And our officers are very well trained, as you said. They'll show up on the scene and they'll utilize that training. Depending on the size of the crowd, things of that nature, tactics and techniques could change based on that. However, when they show up, all of the techniques, tactics that they've learned, that's what we'll be utilizing in these situations to diffuse situations and to keep things calm. When it comes to deployments of chemical agents and things of that nature, again, the federal law enforcement, they have a different probably training around it. They have different rules of engagement. So when they deploy based on their tactics and what their rules are. When we take control of a scene, we will have direct contact communication with them so that they understand that we're going to cover that front line, so that it will be unnecessary to use these chemical agents at this time, because we'll be in front, we'll make sure that we keep these things covered.
Omar Jimenez, CNN. Good to see you.
Hey, how's it going?
So in the timeline that you put out, you said 1228 federal agents call for help for a crowd. 109 additional CPD units are en route. I know there were already officers on scene, but can you just give some clarity on what were the considerations, or what would the considerations have been between in the 31 minutes or so, or 41 minutes, quick math, or so, when additional units were still being considered to be sent to the scene? What was the decision making around there, and why was that needed?
Well, the decision making was based on a request. There was a crime scene there that had to be processed by the FBI, who was doing the investigation, and you still had a crowd there, not a very large crowd, but within that crowd there were some unruly people. There were federal agents there. And they held their line, but we wanted to make sure that we got there because there had been some chemical agents that were deployed. We wanted to get there to make sure that we brought the temperature down, allowed for the processing of the crime scene. Once it was processed, then everybody could leave. But that gap of time that you're talking about, it took a little time to move officers from one location to another to get those officers over there. So we pulled officers from other deployments to get over there to help out with what was going on at that location.
Hi, Superintendent Larry Snelling there now taking questions from reporters. He covered quite a bit of ground, but I just want to highlight a couple of things that he said right away. One, he hasn't spoken until now because he's tried to stay out of the politics of it. He says the police have to be neutral. That's part of his responsibility. He talked about the differences between CPD and the federal government. One of the main things being that the CPD has to follow the Trust Act, which prohibits law enforcement from engaging in immigration enforcement, and the Welcoming City Ordinance, which prohibits them from asking someone's immigration status. So those are two key things. He also clarified what happened on Saturday, points out they were two different incidences. I think there's been a lot of questions about exactly what happened, and we will break down a little bit more about what went on Saturday in our later newscast, because we have reporters, of course, there at the press conference. So we will definitely break down the differences in the timeline that he broke down about the incidents that happened on Saturday. Headline there being there were two incidences and not one. We do have another press conference coming up for you in about 20 minutes. We'll be back live at 2 o'clock. This is when Governor Pritzker and other local and state leaders are scheduled to speak about their efforts to fight the Trump administration from deploying the National Guard here in Chicago. My co-anchor Alex Maragos will be handling that press conference for you. We'll see you again in about 20 minutes.
You ain't gonna catch me blind, man. I know something. So she says, nah, it's gonna be $500. I'm gonna have to sit there. We gonna eat, whatever. I said, all right. And she said, then I need another 500. Right? I said, for what? She says, take the girl, get something to wear, make her feel good about her situation. I said, you know. Now I'm trying to index how much it costs. I'm feeling like she owed me after it's all over. Okay. But she did all that. I I never had to talk to the girl again. She did everything.
And you still ended up with that girl, the other one?
Yeah. She stayed.
That was a scam back in our day. Back in our day, that was a scam. We used to, that was our scam. We used to run. I probably been like 2, 3 people that I had.
Oh, pregnancy.
I just need the money. Ain't no babies.
No, that was, they might have worked me.
It did a couple times.
But I don't know. I think her name was Annie. Yeah, I never forget. What happened was I was just coming around the corner. I jumped on top of somebody, and I just asked her. It was her and this other girl. I said, "What y'all up to?" Oh, nothing. We was just chilling. And Annie get ready to go in town. And I said, "You want me to drop you off?" I asked her. I said, "I'm going in the city. I drop you off." She said, "Yeah." So as we ride, I said, "All right, you want something to eat before I drop you off? Stop at the sub shop." You know, it's all hood shit, right? She says, "No." She said, "Well, what you gonna do when you drop me off?" I said, "I gotta make up mine." I said, "Well, what's up?" She said, "I want to go with you." To do what? Anything you want to do. Oh,
That was easy.
oh, we went to the fucking spot. You know, 'cause back in the day, getting a hotel room, just paying 4 hours. We used to just pay for 4 hours. Because, you know, Indian and them, they in there, they in that. Look, man, all I need is 4 hours, man. Oh, good. Yeah.
That was super easy. Did you even get the pool?
Yeah.
Oh, she didn't want that.
Yeah, afterwards, you know, you gotta get them before they go on that Change My Mind program, man. Because all it takes, you know how women is, they just ride by, you ride by something. They be like, hold on, let me, you about to walk, whatever you get ready to do. Let you what? Nah.
No, we already hit something.
You gotta. Huh?
I'm gonna go out and smoke before the warrant show back up.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get me some water. Nah, you know when you young, you know, back in the day it was a different. Everybody young, ain't got nothing to do, think they gonna live forever. It's whatever, man. I'm gonna go down with you. I'm gonna get some water. You can ready to go down there? If she sees, we just gonna say we ain't been talk. We didn't talk. We ain't say nothing. We just going this way. Go. I'm gonna tell her like I told the girl. Go find somebody at work you want to talk to. You on your lunch break. Right?
I think it would be one laugh. It's all joke.
Huh?
I think she just be one laugh.
Oh
All
yeah.
joke.
Good. Like that shit's that funny. Why is it always funny on Wednesday? It's crazy. Who Superman is. So what city you having it in? Oh, okay, okay. So where you had it before?
That's where I've had all my corrective procedures.
Oh, okay, okay. All right.
The first surgery I did was at an outpatient center where I remember I was supposed to be down for 2 days.
Right.
I said, go ahead, let's do 2 weeks of content or whatever I said.
Right, yeah.
I think I said even 4 weeks because I said 2 weeks I know I'll be back and then we can keep,
Right.
2 weeks up. Yeah, nah, that didn't work that way. So that was an outpatient center. Now this is in the hospital.
Oh, okay, okay. So, yeah, I'm gonna have.
Because the insurance company makes sure it's done right, or you got more to deal with than just me.
Right. Yeah. I ain't got but 13 prayers left. I'm gonna